You may have heard people say that our freedom's under attack here in America. But maybe the real threat isn't coming from Washington. Maybe it's coming from us. You've got college kids being told what they can and cannot say. Tech platforms deciding what you can and cannot think. And headlines that turn disagreements into hate speech overnight. And then you have the whole Charlie Kirk story. A man who spent his life defending free speech. Silenced in the most permanent way possible. But here's the question no one's asking. Have we gotten so sensitive, so tribal, so desperate to be right, that we're giving away our freedoms? Stick around, because in this episode, that's exactly what we talk about. We're not just asking those questions, we're answering them as well. And a few you didn't know you needed to ask. With this being the Freedom Fighter podcast, and with everything going on, Charlie Kirk situation, arguments over whether you have the right to say something or not say something, and kind of what's hate speech, terms thrown out like Nazi, bigot, homophobe, anti-Semitic, all these terms being thrown around on both sides. I just kind of wanted to take a second, talk about that, talk about what freedom is, or at least our definitions as uneducated fools of freedom. But I pulled up the First Amendment, kind of just overarching. What does it say? So you have the freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom to assemble, and freedom to petition. So just real quick, religion is believe or worship what you want or not at all. Speech is to express your opinion and ideas freely. Press is the media can publish information without government control. Assemble is you can gather peacefully with others. And petition is you can ask the government to fix problems or change a law. So obviously, Second Amendment, people argue, protects the First Amendment. That's why it's second. And I believe God is, gave us our rights to protect ourselves. And it's just kind of protected by that. But just kind of, I don't really have a place to go with this other than just to talk about First Amendment, Second Amendment, all the amendments, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's been argued a lot, and it comes down to interpretation of that, because if someone has the right to express their opinions and their opinion can be deemed hurtful or hateful, then they don't have the right. Well, what's been changing over the last generation is defining what is hurtful and what is hateful speech. And so when you leave that, and there's no black and white answer for it. It's subjective to society.
I guess I would push back. What is hurtful? What is hateful? And where does that... I've never heard anybody express it that way, I guess. I've always heard, like, if it becomes a public nuisance, like you can't yell bomb on an airplane. Mm-hmm. You can't yell fire in a building.
Well, anything to incite panic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But not necessarily hurtful or hateful. I mean, that's just, like you said, it's someone's opinion.
Right.
Like, what's hurtful or hateful?
Just like with Charlie Kirk, the perfect example. He went out all of his beliefs stem from all of his opinions come from his religious beliefs. And
I would argue he didn't start off that way. So I never watched this stuff, so I can't really say a lot, but my understanding is the last 5 years, yes, it has, but that's not where he started off as.
Well, from my understanding, and I watched him for a long time, he's always been very faith-filled in his stuff. He might have been more vocal about it in the last 5 years, but every conversation that I've seen with him, he brings up faith. And when he's debating people, and that's all he did, is he was a really good debater. And I'm sure he had some moments of being condescending and, smug, yeah, which rubs people the wrong way, gets clicks, whatever it was. But ultimately, his beliefs or his opinions are stemmed from his religious beliefs. So and he changes his stance, he calls himself out when he changed his stance about things like, bringing up the abortion conversation and transgender stuff, like all that stuff comes from, and he says, because God created man and woman. And, so he's expressing his religion through his free speech. But if that offends someone else, then does that restrict his ability to do that, especially in a public setting? because that's what people are trying to get shut down. And the fact that he went to college campuses, the argument was that's a private institution. He shouldn't be allowed to, right. But it's private property.
That's not the state property. Like a state run, like the state pays for it.
The state college.
Yeah, like University of Nebraska. That's a state. Our tax dollars pay for it.
So I guess that's maybe what I don't understand, because I was under the impression it's still private property, and so they can restrict certain types of activity, and if they don't want someone speaking there,
you can restrict activity anywhere. Like courthouse is restricted, but it's still public property. Police station is public, but it's restricted.
So you can't go out and do a rally on a police front porch. But I think that's the part, is that people want to shut down the ideas that they don't agree with. And I even if I don't agree with someone, I absolutely think that it's their right and they should go into a public setting and converse openly.
And I'll give an example from yesterday. So my daughter goes to University of Nebraska, and she's in a culture class or something like that. And just yesterday, they're telling them more or less how they have to act and be culturally with the LGBTQIA plus community. And that's my opinion. You have, when you go to school, you sign up for a curriculum. You know, these are all the classes I need to take. So you take a culture class, there's an overarching thing. That is backed by the dean of whoever runs that portion of the college. So that's the school backing it, is what I'm getting at. Like, not necessarily the teacher. I don't know the teacher's beliefs. It could have been the teacher's beliefs and more rogue, if you will. But I don't know all the situation, so I'm not trying to read into it too much. But why are they able to tell you how you have to act towards a certain community? And that was Charlie Kirk's argument, is you shouldn't be able to. And if they're only getting one side of the argument, then he wanted to present the other side. And like I said, I've seen it just yesterday
with K through 12. Like, should they be allowed to push those things onto kids, and when the parents don't necessarily agree with it? Like, I don't think so.
Well, I just went to the Supreme Court and they said no. Or I think that was more the curriculum in school.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think that the same thing with, we've had our kids just have multiple instances of them sharing what they learned in Sunday school in class and being told, hey, we can't talk about that here.
So my daughter actually asked that in class yesterday. She said, well, how come we can't bring up religion in school? And I didn't talk to her directly. I'm getting this through my wife. So, but from what I understand, they kind of dismissed the conversation.
Is that a restriction on freedom of speech? And also, when you're in, I still consider it a private institution, even if it's not a private school. It is still, it's not open to the public, right? Like a public park is open to the public, but an institution is not. It's only for people who are registered, pay to go to school there. So in that setting, they can restrict, just like in the workplace. Like, there are employment laws about what, HR stuff, but like, should the colleges be allowed to restrict what people are allowed to talk about in order to avoid conflict?
I don't know. I mean, you brought up work. I think it's a slippery slope, however you go about it. So what if someone's celebrating what happened to Charlie Kirk and you employ that person?
Right. That's honestly, that's one thing that I mean, if it was someone that worked for me, I think it would put me in a tough spot. Like, if one of my employees was going and posting this stuff, I would probably have the conversation of, in the public, you represent this company, and I won't be tied to, any kind of hate speech. Like, and I consider that celebrating someone's death a hateful type of speech. But there's a lot of people that are just targeting those, anyone who posts online saying, celebratory posts, they're targeting those employers and sending those and trying to get them fired. Like, I don't think that that's right. And I saw there was this lady that was making jokes about it and was like, oh, looks like Charlie Kirk got shot. And she's like, thoughts and prayers, and just, mocking. And and they went after her boyfriend's electric company. And he has thousands of bad reviews now. People have gone and harassed him in the workplace. Like, I don't think that's right. So yes, I agree that they should be able to speak freely, but that's kind of what I'm bringing up is like, it's not always the left that's offended. Both sides get offended.
No, and I'm not trying to make this a left or a right thing.
Right. But I'm saying typically in conversations, people look at the liberals as the ones who are offended by everything. But I mean, the right's just as bad. Like you get offended about, the Second Amendment conversations and stuff. It's like the whole point of college is to be a collaboration of ideas, and they need to be more welcoming of opposing opinions.
I would argue the whole First Amendment is to be a collaboration of ideas and to bounce things off. And I guess going back to my initial point is like, we're quick to call everybody names. We're quick to label like Trump's a Nazi. By what account?
We're going to clip that, and that's going to be our.
Yeah, like.
But I think the best example of how those things get portrayed in the media is, we might have talked about it before, but there's a picture where there's two soldiers and a guy on his knees in handcuffs. And one of the pictures, one of the soldiers is holding a weapon to him, in case he tries to run. The other guy is pouring water into his mouth. And what they did is they cut the photo so that you can only see the guy pouring water into his mouth. And then they cut the photo so you can only see the guy holding a gun on him, and showed how it portrays a narrative based on how they want to spin it. And that's what the media does, is they take the bits and pieces, and nobody's doing it to us, but you see an hour and a half long podcast, they'll go find a clip of 10 seconds that something was taken out of context.
Charlie Kirk, like every negative thing I've seen was that. Like one sentence out of a 5-minute thing. And
exactly. And then they spin it, and then they add fuel to it, and then that's how they create this hate.
You were talking about pictures and stuff. I just seen this on Instagram earlier today. Tim Kennedy, former UFC and Special Forces guy, he posted on Instagram, it's this truck going down the highway, and it's got tracks. So instead of tires, it has tank tracks. And the guy has like a 50 cal mounted in the back of his truck. He's going down the street, and all the picture is, you can see the truck, you can see the 50 cal, you can see the tracks, and you see the cops talking to him. And it's like, how is this illegal in America type thing? And apparently one of the guy's friends that knew the story chimed into Tim Kennedy's post. He said what happened was, because of the tracks, he blew a hydraulic hose, and he was stalled out on the highway, and the cops were actually super nice and helpful and got him moved. But do we just take that one picture and say the cops are harassing this guy because looks like he's got a military type vehicle and a 50 cal in the back, which, whole different argument, but we jump to conclusions. And it happens on both sides. Like
and I think the most destructive thing, especially with biases, is when you get the confirmation bias and only ever listen to what you agree with. Then you might start out, at a high school, going into college, kind of middle of the line, and then you start confirmation bias. And that's why we get so far apart, is because people only listen to what they agree with.
Their echo chamber.
Yep. And then we're so far apart. And if you look at, there's a video online on YouTube. I can't remember what the name of the video is, but it shows the conservative and liberal beliefs over time, and when the parties were established, and how there were, some liberal Republicans and some conservative Democrats. They just kind of towed that line. And then they show over time where they just start separating, and all their ideas are so far apart right now that even just being neutral, the left considers far right, and vice versa. As if you're even somewhat moderate, you're categorized as a liberal. And I think that is because in the internet age, it became too easy to go with confirmation bias. I mean, look at social media now. With the algorithms, they want to keep you on stuff that you watch. And when people are posting videos that gain a lot of attention, it's usually clickbait, It's got some kind of, I don't want to use misinformation too easily, but I do think misinformation is the best way to define it.
Misleading.
Misleading information, where they take that one clip and that's where they add the fuel, and then people watch it longer. So the algorithms say, well, I want to give you more of that content because I want to keep you on our platforms. And then the only thing they're able to find is that.
Well, you just did it. When I said, people label Trump as a Nazi, you said, let's use that as our title.
Yeah, exactly. It's easy to take a clip like that. Yeah.
So it's human. But to your point, is how the algorithm, if you want to get through the noise of everybody else in social media and YouTube or whatever, you have to create something that gets people attention, stops them in their tracks. You only have a couple seconds, with the thumbnail or the title. But that's why it happens. And then these algorithms are so smart. If you're just scrolling and you slow down long enough, they'll feed you more of that. And you slow down again and they'll feed you more of that.
Which can be used as a tool too. Like people that are wanting to get away from certain types of content, just skip them faster. And the ones like for mine, anytime a religious one comes up or something that's just like teaching, because I'm actively trying to learn more about the Bible. Like I don't spend enough time in the Word, and so when I see people come up and just giving their perspective of it, it takes discernment because there's a lot of bad information out there. But I'll watch it longer, which then means it gives me more, and then so I'm basically training my algorithm to the stuff that I want to see. So where a lot of it's sports and trucks and other stuff, but
half-naked girls.
No, that's the stuff that I'm talking about. Is they
that's what I'm saying. That's what they put out there. If
you
just go start an Instagram account and you put your 24-year-old male, and then as soon as you create it and then you go to the search thing, it's gonna be full of.
Yeah, I created an Instagram for real estate business a few years ago, and that's what it was. And so I went through and just found Bible verses and started clicking like on all of them, just scrolling. And so now when I open up my search, it's only Bible verses. So it's part of training the algorithm because I don't want that garbage. I want the good stuff. So
yeah, but when you create it, that's what they start feeding you because that's what the majority.
That's what they believe that people want. And So, but yeah, I think the freedom of speech argument, I agree. It is the most important amendment because if we restrict people's ability to express their opinions, then we become a dictatorship.
So what is an opinion?
What is an opinion?
Where does opinions start and stop, I guess? Is there a hateful opinion?
I think so.
Can you say it?
That's part of the argument is should people be, if people don't agree with President Trump, they should be allowed to post that online. But where does it become a crime when the posts that they're putting up are wishing harm on someone? If there's an active threat, then I can understand that. But I don't know. I still think it's an opinion. If people don't like someone, then don't like them. But I don't want to say the trolls, but the Karens of the internet take that stuff and they want to ruin that person's life for having an opinion.
I guess where the danger lies entails is when they're like, this person's a Nazi, Trump's a Nazi, and he needs to be stopped. He's how do you say that word? Threat to democracy. Somebody will take that and run with it.
Oh, and I've seen videos of what do you call montages of politicians and news anchors and all that stuff saying things like that, and how it's just kind of, like I said, adding fuel to it. And someone that's only consuming that content of he needs to be stopped, someone needs to stop him, and all this stuff. And you get terrible people that are out there that want to wish harm, but I don't believe that killing someone is going to stop their movement. And we saw the proof of that after Charlie Kirk died, where I feel like the nation just had a significant shift. They had every church that I saw posting online said they had a higher turnout the week after he passed than ever before. And so the movement keeps going, and I don't know why the violence always becomes the answer. Like it's like when in every opportunity in history, when people can't win with words, they resort to violence. And I think that's unfortunate. But at what point is speech become violent?
Well, I mean, I guess if you're, I think I mean, maybe I'm just negative in this, but I think the politicians know what they're saying when they say Trump's a Nazi and he needs to be stopped. I think they understand what they're saying. They might hope that nothing happens, but they know that there's a higher likelihood of it happening with them saying it than not.
Well, I mean, it's like in Congress after Charlie Kirk passed, they called for a moment of silence, and a bunch of Democrats started booing and hissing and hawing. And
they call for prayer.
No, they asked for a moment of silence.
I thought initially they asked for prayer, and that's when they hemmed and hawed, and then they had the moment of silence.
Maybe I misread the clip, but I saw a moment of silence, and then they all, gawked at it. And is that a form of hate speech? Like, I don't know, but I think that there's too many moving parts to really know the right answer on that.
Yeah. I mean, as I try to grow in my religious, people have the bracelets, what would Jesus do?
Mm-hmm.
And I try to try to live it more, try to put it more in my everyday life, because I feel like it's just a bracelet. It's just, I mean, my kids have one. Like, I don't think they're sitting there trying to dissect this situation. What would Jesus do? What would Jesus say? How would Jesus act? Like, well, I'll go negative on Charlie Kirk here. Like, yes, he was a Christian, and yes, I think he brought a lot of people to faith, and I think he did good. And overabundance of he's produced more good fruit than sour fruit, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But we talked about the smugness and the condescending tone that he talked. Like, I think he'd done better if he'd have just stayed neutral and not been smug and not been condescending throughout the whole thing. I think it would have been better for his message.
Yeah.
I think that's more in line what Christ would have done. So I'm not saying that what he said, his words weren't necessarily wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying they were necessarily right or wrong, I guess. But his tone and his delivery said enough that caused people to say it was hatred.
The wrong way. Yeah. And I mean, just hearing people that knew him behind closed doors talking about how, like, who was it? Tucker Carlson. I saw an interview with Tucker Carlson, and he's like, Charlie Kirk didn't have a hateful bone in his body. And he's like, I have a hateful component in my heart. He's like, when I'm mad at people, he's like, I'll say negative things about them, but he never would. He even people who disagreed with him, he would just say that like, they're just sad people. And that, I believe, is a what would Jesus do moment. Is like, he gives so much grace to people that he disagrees with. And maybe it was that was his defense mechanism in confrontation, was to laugh and kind of play it off and whatever. And we see those clips. And I mean, I agree. I thought that he was smug a lot. And just, I mean, same with Ben Shapiro and same with Candace Owens. I think they're very smug people. But I don't get on a stage and argue with thousands of people that disagree with me. So I don't know what I would do in that situation. I'd probably be just as bad, if not worse. So, but I don't think that violence is the answer. I think there's a time and a place for violence, and that's not it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it just, how do you stop it? Like, how do we get back to some sense of normalcy?
Be the change that you wish to see in the world?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it all comes back to Christ. Like, I hate to throw stones, but I'll pick one up and throw it right now. It seems like the most, I'm trying to see how I want to say this, like the the most severe people are those that are the furthest from Christ. And you can make the argument on the right of the same thing. Like, just because you are a Christian doesn't mean you're following Christ. And so I think anybody that's trying to do harm to another person as a Christian is not following Christ. So I want to make it on both ways. There's people that have hatred towards Christ, and there's people that say they follow Christ, but they're not following his practices.
And on the same argument of what I was saying with the confirmation biases and how it just gets you to go down this road that further separates you from the opposite side. Imagine if the other side didn't exist. If there was no Democratic Party, there's just a Republican Party. How far would that go before it becomes a dictatorship? Same with Democrats. If there's no Republican Party, how far would that go before it's a dictatorship and everything that the socialist organization, honestly, we would turn into a communist country. So I think that it's healthy to have opposing opinions because it keeps us centered. Like, in order for us to continue operating as a sophisticated society, we need those differing of opinions, which is why we have Congress set up the way it is so that the representatives are bringing the beliefs of their populace, which is how they're voted into office, and which is why you have more Democrats coming out of California, Democratic politicians, which is why you have more Republicans coming out of, Texas, because they represent the general populace. And then when they go, they bring those ideas to the congressional floor and they debate them and they go back and forth and then they come to agreements or not, which brings us to a government shutdown, but that's another note. And I think it's a healthy, good system. I think we need opposing opinions. So the same as, I've heard a lot of people talking about in marriage, like, your wife is not supposed to agree with everything you do. Like, God created her to be your discernment. That's why women are more intuitive than men, whereas men are more impulsive. Like, how bad would it be if I just impulsively went after every business idea that I thought I could without my wife's discernment? Like, there's nothing to give me that balance except my wife. And I think that's true in all good things. I mean, that's my tattoo, is the lion and the tiger, or the dragon and the tiger, which represents the yin yang. It's all about balance. Like, we can't have any one party rule for too long of a time. And we haven't in our country's history. We've never had a long period where one party controlled the House, the Senate, and the presidency. There's always been balance of back and forth. And as society grows and changes, those opinions grow and change. But I feel like they're growing further and further apart. And then it's a tug of war where we're not discussing the topics with open minds and giving people the right to disagree. It's, if you don't agree with me, then you just cut off. And I don't think that's healthy.
So is 2 parties better than 3, 4, 5 parties?
I mean, I don't think that it would be as productive to have, like, are you talking about if we had 4 or 5 parties that were all equally yoked?
Yeah, I mean, however it divides out.
I don't know. I don't think that we would function as well with that. I mean, I do think it's good to have, we have the Green Party, we have the Tea Party, we have the whatever other small independent party. But I think that I think we're too far along in this 2-party politics for those to get any real traction. So I don't know what the effect of that would be. I mean, I'm not a political science, major, but I think that the 2-party politics creates that tug of war that keeps us centered.
Gotcha. So I kind of want to go back to the hate speech conversation. We kind of went off from it. What do you think something's hate speech, or do you think it's just
an opinion?
Yeah, stupid opinion.
Yeah, I mean, we saw this really get feet with the social media stuff. Social media, again, a private platform. I guess it's open to the public, but it is a private company. Facebook, Twitter, whatever else, they're all privately held companies, which they have terms and service terms of service that they can restrict certain things. So when Facebook is taking down posts that they don't agree with, that's within their right, because you don't have to use their platform. But with them having such a big impact on society, should they be allowed to take things down, or are those types of posts protected by the First Amendment? I think that's a really tough question, and it's gone through Congress multiple times. I mean, they've had several congressional hearings. We've seen clips of Mark Zuckerberg on there a bunch of times. And I don't know. I don't think that we can restrict a private company from setting their own policies, just like in my company. If I say, when you're at a customer's location, I don't want you cussing, just stuff like that. I don't want to, break ties that could affect our ability to bring in income. You can tell your plumbers, like, I don't want you guys smoking at people's houses, stuff like that. The whole swearing thing is like, is that protected under freedom of speech? No, because they are an employee to my company. So it's like, yes, they're human rights. There's the constitutional rights, and then there's the rights of the employee. Like, they don't have to be an employee with me. You want your freedom of speech to go swear at customers, then go work for someone else.
Yeah, I mean, I guess just as you're speaking, I'm thinking about it, but if someone curses you, do you have the ability to, like, can you just punch them in the face?
No.
If someone calls you a racist name,
mm-hmm.
Can you just punch them in the face?
But there are cases of swearing at someone that are verbal assault. So at what point does speech become assault?
Yeah, I think you can, on a cop, if you were rude to a cop, there's some stupid law.
If you threaten someone and you say, I'm going to do X, that's assault. That's the way I see it. But just expressing an opinion, like someone says, I think that Trump's a racist. That's clip that part too.
Well, I mean, that is an opinion though, because at that point you're saying, I think
mm-hmm.
Trump is a Nazi. He has to be stopped at all costs. Is not an opinion. You're stating a fact.
Mm-hmm.
You are, by saying he has to be stopped at all costs, you are spinning somebody up. And mm-hmm. I think you know that. And that's where
So it's like, if we were outside a bank and I said, they got a lot of money in there, someone should probably go steal it. Am I now an accomplice if that guy goes in and robs the bank? Yeah, I mean, I would say so. So how is that any different from these politicians?
That's my point. It's mm-hmm. like, it's not just the politicians, like
the news
anchors
yeah.
and stuff like that. And people on social media get in their echo chamber and start saying it. And
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it goes both ways. It just, Trump's a Nazi is the easy button, because every time you turn on the TV, you hear it nowadays. So
yeah, and I don't know enough about the law system to know what the legal answer is on that, but ethical and moral answer, I think that they are absolutely accomplice in it. If they are going to continue to, like you said, spin people up and get them to do these acts of violence, I think that they need to be held accountable for that as well. I don't know what that looks like, but I do agree that if you are at all fueling that fire, then you are as much as an accomplice as someone who, helped dig a hole to hide a body. Like that's how bad I see it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. But when they're the ones making the laws, how do you stop them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the same, I know this is completely off topic, but the same with the bill that they introduced to restrict congressional members' ability to trade in public or in stocks. Yeah. I completely agree with that. I don't think it'll ever pass. Even if, it would take all of the people, the population, to hold their local public official accountable and say, if you don't vote for this, then we're going to remove you from your seat, before we'll ever see that happen. But it impacts them. Like I think that if you want to invest in what do you call them? Not mutual funds, but ETFs, EFTs,
ETFs.
Yeah, ETFs. where it's a blend of companies and stuff and sectors and stuff like that, then great, by all means. But I don't think it's okay for someone that has knowledge that isn't openly available to the public, Nancy Pelosi, to go buy shares in a company.
You know that there's a bill coming out that's going to negatively affect Facebook.
Yep.
And so you sell your Facebook stock.
Exactly.
Or
that,
vice versa.
I believe that's insider trading. And if we were to do that based on information that we knew that wasn't open to the public, we'd be in prison. So I don't get how they can get away with it, except for the fact that they're the ones who are making the laws. So I really hope that we see some change to that, but it's gonna take the entire population holding their public officials accountable. Now, at the same time, does it really affect me? No. I mean, but I don't think it's right.
No, I mean, I guess it does affect you because then it goes to power and influence. And,
but it's like the whole question of how does a politician that makes $250,000 a year go in with a net worth of zero, and 20, 30 years after being in office, they come out with $300 million net worth? Like, that math doesn't check.
Really good returns.
Yeah. 3,000% annual returns. That seems legit.
So he's kind of going down that same rabbit hole. What can we do? What can be done to help us as a nation? How can we get back to some sort of normal?
Love your neighbor. I mean, I think that the open collaboration of ideas is good. It's productive. There's things that I might have. I remember seeing a post a while back that was like, check your convictions. And constantly, the best way to grow is to evaluate the things that you are sold on.
I mean, it goes back to a quote I've said on here before, but I'll paraphrase it because I won't get it right. But we question everything except for our true beliefs, and we never think to question those.
I like that one.
So, I mean, it's basically what you're saying. It's like, these are my core beliefs, and you never even think to question them.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you should question everything. Like, why do I believe this?
Mm-hmm.
You know, why is this true to me?
Mm. Well, I remember, Bert Kreischer, the comedian, shirtless comedian, the machine guy. He had a speech, and normally I don't think twice about the stuff he posts because he's a comedian, so they're not the most serious people. But one of the best things that I've ever heard him say was he said he was asked, "Would you ever cheat on your wife?" And he's like, "Absolutely not." And he's like, "And you know how I know that is because I've imagined a life that I don't get to snuggle up with my kids and my wife in bed, and I don't ever want to choose that life. So I've already made that conscious decision that's a core value of mine, that I would never jeopardize that." And so I think that kind of goes along with checking your convictions, is like, those are things that, like, my mind will never change on that. And I can't think of any. I mean, my religious beliefs are that certain, but my political beliefs, I don't have any strong conviction in that can't be changed if I see evidence otherwise.
So, should your religious beliefs dictate your political beliefs, or should they be separate?
I think they're separate.
Why?
I mean, I think that we can generally speak that one side of politics maybe has a higher percentage of religious people than the other. Doesn't mean that that's.
But our country was founded on religious freedom, our Christian religious freedom specifically. Out of the 13 original colonies, I think, I get these numbers wrong, but like 9 of them, you had to be a Protestant. You couldn't even be a Catholic. 1 of them, you could be a Catholic and vote. And the other 3, I think, were just open.
I think it's separate. I think that if a Muslim is Republican or is a Democrat, it does not matter.
No, and that's not what I'm getting at. Sorry. I'm saying, should your religious beliefs, is there anything wrong with you're a Christian and so you're a Republican? Like,
no,
using Charlie Kirk as an example, I've seen him talking about abortion. He says that his religious beliefs and his political beliefs are tied, but he can make the argument separately. But is there anything wrong with them being tied together? I believe this because the Bible says so.
I see what you're saying. So I think what that comes down to, there's the ethos and the pathos, and your values. And I have a picture of it on my phone. I'll have to show it to you later. But there's a circle that starts with your values, and that like showing that is your core. And then your values impact your opinions, which impacts your beliefs, which impacts your communication. And so I think that if we say that your religious values are the core of your opinions, then they change your beliefs and change your communication. And so if people are making decisions in government, that's coming from their core values, which if you're being a Christian is your core value, it's going to impact all your decision making. And I think it should. I mean, I think that the same way that you're saying being a Christian changes how you interact day to day. Like our day to day is business, is when I do a business transaction and I have the opportunity to cut a corner that might screw someone over, I'm not going to take it because of my core values. The same is true when people are making political decisions and voting on a bill. I think they should vote based on their values. They're put into that position because of their values.
So what if their values are different? I mean, I don't know how this would work out in practice, but say you're a Democrat in Tennessee and you have different values than, I don't know if this is factual or not, I'm just making something up. So, but you have different values and somehow you got elected. I guess that's my problem with what you said, and just kind of as a whole, our system. You're elected to represent the people, but you can have contrarian values in a certain area. We'll use gun control. We haven't talked about gun control in here. So you can have a different value, 90% line up, but that one thing doesn't. And just you're not voting with your constituents.
Well, I think they need to be held accountable. I mean, the way that every politician votes is public information. And if you really want to see, and that's part of checks and balances, is if we have an applicant come into our business that says, oh, I'm excellent at Excel and I know how to do, this, and this, and this, and then they get in, start doing the job and they don't know how to use Excel at all, I'm probably going to pull them off.
Yeah, so but it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier when you own the business versus a politician that gets in there. They have the whole Republican or Democratic Party behind them at that point in time. They have power. They have influence. Like if I'm already the established person and you're the income or the new person, what incumbent versus incumbent. Yeah, I know. I was trying to think what the new person would be, but the challenger or whatever. You're at a disadvantage automatically. I have name recognition. I've been doing it for 2, 4, 6 years. And so it's harder. And then you have to not only persuade the owner of the business, you have to persuade your whole city, county, whatever it is, making it that much harder.
Yeah, I definitely, I think it's a difficult process because one, it's a money problem. I mean, we see someone could be the absolute perfect candidate for my beliefs and the populace in our area. But if you don't know about them, then, I mean, they're never going to make it to office. So part of why they raise funds, why they hire professional fundraisers is so that they can get more exposure. I mean, those funds go towards, their rallies and their media presence and all that stuff. But if they don't get the funding, then they don't get seen, they don't get noticed. So I think that it should be the norm to hold politicians accountable. Like most people, they only know about a politician's beliefs on the debate stages. Like when they go on, what's your opinion on this? What's your opinion on this? And then they talk about it and people are deciding or supposed to be deciding if this person is a good representative of my beliefs. And if they say, everything right that I agree with, and they get into office and their votes go opposite of the things that they said, then they should not be getting reelected just because they're popular. So that's the way that the system is designed to work.
Designed.
Designed.
Not currently implemented.
Right.
So
and maybe it takes a platform that comes out, and I know there's already some websites like that show just a general how did my politician vote on these ideas.
Yeah, but people are too busy in their own lives. Like people wake up, they get ready for work, they go to work for 8 hours, they come home, they have either social life if they're not married, they have, well, not in my case, wife and kids, we got sports, we got activities, all this stuff. Who has time?
If I had an app that gave me a notification every time, who's our politicians now? We have
I have no idea.
It used to be Ben Sass and
it's
Ricketts, Pete Ricketts, right? So if I got a notification every time, because I don't even know what half the things they're voting on are. Like I don't keep up with it enough. But if I got a notification saying Bill whatever was voted on today, this is how Pete Ricketts voted, like he voted yay and whatever, then I could open it up and learn more.
The bills are freaking 8,000 pages long. How do you even know? Like they bury everything in there. I'm going off on a tangent to the whole systems.
But just knowing how they're voting on these things, then I could be a more informed voter on the next election. And because, it's kind of, I forget about it, don't really think much of it. I just trust that they're doing, and I keep bringing it back to business, but the same is true. It's like when you hire on an employee and I'm just trusting that they're doing everything right, but I never go back and check on them, then I have no idea if they're doing jobs, the job the way that I hired them to do it.
Yeah.
And that's a good, I think it's a good analogy comparing the business to the politicians because they're public servants. They're meant to be.
They're in the business of politician or political business.
Right. But they work for the people. So if they're not working for the people, then they're not doing their job.
Well, none of them are doing their job.
Well, not right now when they're not getting paid.
Oh, they're getting paid. Don't you worry about that.
Mm-hmm. It's always in the footnotes.
Yeah.
Like government shutdown, no service members, no post offices, but let's make sure we still get our.
Yeah, they're not worried about not getting paid. So.
Yeah.
But going back to the initial thing, means we went off on our tangent, but what
Tangent Tuesdays.
You're pretty broad when I asked this the first time, like love your neighbor, but how can what's a tactical, practical thing someone can do to open up this discussion on both sides to get out of their echo chamber and try to make this world a better place?
Yeah, I think that the simplest answer is the right answer. Like it's not a complex thing. Is if you and I disagreed on something and we just stop being friends because we disagreed on something, that's not loving your neighbor. Like it is perfectly normal to disagree on things. And I think if we look at it as more of a positive, it's the whole iron sharpens iron thing. It doesn't mean that, if I only hang out with people who support the confirmation bias, like I think in order to be chiseled and to be the most well-rounded you can be, you need to be around people who disagree with you. And I mean, in the men's group stuff, you're in a room with 12 guys that all have different life experience, have different levels of wealth, different levels of marriage, of parenting, all this stuff. And it's a sounding board to chisel away as I'm trying to develop my business. And I think that that's productive because most of them don't handle things the way that I would handle it. But I know that their values all stem from their Christianity. And so I'm in a room where the chisels that they have and how it's impacting me and my business is aligned with where I want to get to. So I think that's an example of a collaboration of ideas that is productive.
Where's it break down at though? Why can we not do that?
As a society?
Yeah. As an individual, how come you can't do that? Like, screw society. How come you can't do that?
I think people take offense too easily. I think that if you look at how people break down and get defensive.
I'll back off to what I'm getting at, I guess, is I think it's Ryan Holiday has the book, Ego is the Enemy.
Mm.
And at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. It's your own ego. It's your own pride. It's thinking you're right.
I think that the absolute most destructive thing is the people that are 100% confident about something that is not true.
Yeah. I tell my daughter that, like, she speaks in absolutes all the time.
Yeah, absolutes. Yeah,
and I'm like, Alyssa, quit speaking in absolutes. Like, when you speak in absolute, all you do is back yourself in a corner you can't get out of.
Mm-hmm.
Like, by just saying, I think this is the case.
Mm-hmm.
Historically, I've seen this.
Right.
Like, you're giving yourself an out.
And my daughter, our 15-year-old, just started debate class in school. And so I've been having conversations with all the kids about the difference between objective and subjective truths. And like, I can say that this wall is painted. That is objectively true. But if I say that wall is purplish, like, you might say, well, it's actually more of a light blue. Like, that is a subjective truth, right? Because your interpretation of the color, I think that's where people say, like, this is a wooden table. That's objective. It's a good table. That's my opinion. But if you say it's a bad table and I say it's a good table, are we both wrong or are we both right? Like, there is no right or wrong answer when it comes to an opinion. I think that's where people have this certainty about things that are subjective. And that's, if there's one snap of a finger thing that we can do, is I would love for people to just understand whether they're arguing something that is absolute or subjective, or not absolute, but objective or subjective.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, why does it matter?
Mm-hmm.
Why does it matter what the color of the wall is? Why does it matter if this is made out of wood, iron, stone?
Well, I think that
it only matters to you. It only matters to your ego.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why does it matter? Like, if you tell me this is made out of stone and I know it's made out of wood, why does it matter?
Right. In examples like that, but the stuff that Charlie Kirk was debating, like abortion or gun control and stuff like that, that matters a lot. So, I mean, on the conversation of abortion, what he was really good at, and good debaters are good at that, is they start off by coming to some core agreements. Like, he would start, what is a woman? So can we agree on these few things? And then we'll go from there and we'll see where we start to differ.
But he wasn't arguing with them. He was bringing them along to a realization on their own. When you're arguing, when you say this is made of stone and I say it's made of wood, and I'm arguing with you, that's where the conversation breaks down.
So when he would start by saying, what is a woman? Then he would start to get into, he would come to those core beliefs of where can we agree on, where are we on the same page? And then he would take it a step further and see where the disconnect came from. And not disconnect saying that, someone is completely wrong, but see where we start to disagree. And he would say, where do you believe that life starts? Because he believes that it starts at conception. And some people would say, well, I believe it's not a baby until 3 months, or I believe it's not a baby till it's born. And so then he'd be like, okay, so that's where we disagree. And so then he can start to object to them, give his beliefs. So, because they would say it's not a baby until it's born, like until the day it's born, the baby can be aborted. Oh, baby. They say the embryo can be aborted. And so he will debate that by saying, so a fully formed baby, the only difference is they're inside the uterus, looks just like a baby, like comes out the next day and it's a baby. You're saying the day before you can still kill it. And so that's where he would find the disagreements. And I think that form of dialogue is productive because you can find where the disconnects are. Like, I believe that a baby is a baby from conception, but does that make it objectively true that a baby is like that? It's hard to find an objective truth there.
And that's my point. When it comes to something like that, you're never going to change somebody's opinion. Mm-hmm. Like, if someone says it's not a baby until the moment it breathes oxygen, you think it's at conception, you're not going to like something in their life has to change their viewpoint.
Right.
You're not going to do it.
Absolutely.
And that's, I guess, kind of my point is at that point in time, if you're arguing with that person, your opinion versus their opinion, all that is your ego.
And the same is true about the Second Amendment conversation. Like, people that are for the Second Amendment believe that everyone's right to protect themselves, which, the whole thing about protect yourselves from a tyrannical government, but protect yourselves in general with firearms shall not be infringed. And they believe that if more people were armed, then there would be less people committing crimes, because the ones that do, are held accountable very quickly for their actions. The other side of it is just the existence of guns is dangerous to people, and if we just got rid of them, then violence wouldn't be a problem anymore. And those two, like, there is no middle ground there. Like, there's no way to just change those opinions because they are so far, and you need to go back to the values of why they believe that. But people just go right to the end argument, which, I mean, there's no way to change an opinion on that.
Yeah, I mean,
but and it's even hard to find facts now, because you can find scientific research that supports whatever belief. So where do you bring supporting evidence? Because I can go out, I can find a news article that says, more deaths are caused by, car crashes than whatever. But I can also find one that says that guns kill more people than what. Like, you can find anything to support your opinion. So I think that, like I said, going back to the circles is starting with the values and then going to the opinions and the beliefs and the communication.
No.
So, but I still want to hear what you have to say before we close out on when does speech become harmful?
Unless it is I guess when you're threatening somebody, whether it's overtly or covertly, when you're affecting human life or someone's ability to live life, I think that's where it breaks down.
There was a guy I followed years ago.
I think I should be able to call you whatever stupid name I come up with. Like you don't have to hang out with me.
Actually, I saw a video last night of I don't know, Salma Hayek or some Hispanic actress that was saying, if I was to call you all kinds of names in Spanish, you would just sit there unaffected.
Yeah.
I could call you whatever I want and it wouldn't bother you at all, because they're just words. It's like, but it's you who takes offense to it, because if I call you all those names in English, you're going to be offended.
Yeah.
And so if you brush off everything as if they're saying it in another language, then that's the best way to grow from it. But I followed this guy many years ago, and he just had a sick sense of humor. Like, it was always had raunchy jokes and all this stuff. And someone asked him, like, oh, don't you worry about offending people? And he's like, I feel like as a comedian, if you say everything is funny up to here, then you're a hypocrite. Because if your line in the sand is here and someone makes a joke here and you're saying you can't say that, then you're a hypocrite, because you're offending everyone that has a line shorter than yours. And so he just chooses not to draw a line. And I agree with that to a point, but I think that that's just because I won't make any jokes that go past here, because that's where my ethical boundaries are, and someone else chooses to go over here, it does not affect me. I continue living your life. You want to call me whatever you want, fine.
It's still a joke. It just doesn't have to be funny.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Shakespeare quote from Hamlet. Nothing is basically saying nothing is either positive nor negative. It's our thinking that makes it so. Same thing with words. Words are neither positive nor negative. They neither have the ability to build up or tear down. It's our thinking that makes them so.
Right.
So if you think a word is good, it'll make you feel a certain way. If you think a word's bad, it'll make you feel a certain way. I'll mess with my wife with this. Like, she'll be like, love you, and I won't say anything. She'll be like, love you, and I won't say anything. She's like, I told you love you. I'm like, why'd you tell me you love me? I thought it was for me. Like, why are you telling me you love me? Like, are you saying it for you? Because you just want me to hear it? Like, so it's like words, we look for a meaning in them or someone to say something. Like, she wants to hear it. So
my wife is Hawaiian Puerto Rican and I choose life. So I'm not going to play that game, but
but yeah, so yeah, she gets pretty mad. But yeah, I mean, it's true though. Like, why do we say words? It's because it means something to us. Like, that person is being mean to you because it makes them feel a certain way. It has nothing to do with you.
mm-hmm.
It has to do with something on the inside of them. And so going back to religion, and like, they have a God-sized hole in their heart that only he can fill. So,
and for the people that are watching politicians go and argue on, on camera, and they say nasty things about the other side and all this stuff, I hope everybody knows that as soon as those cameras are off, those guys are buddies. They go and grab a beer after. They don't care. Like, it's all for the limelight. And after that, that's where it lays. But everyone else back home watching is fired up, ready to put on their gear, because they think of everything as like a hero and villain story. And my side is the heroes and their side is the villains. And when the people on the pedestal say this thing, it's our, we got to take action. And I think it's ridiculous. So I think as a society, we need to be more realistic with, one, not holding politicians on a pedestal, and they're people too. And celebrities especially. I think celebrities get way too much credit for, there's way too much access to influence people's opinions.